Who's this stranger in our house? My sister-in-law sneered as she stepped inside with her husband. Her eyes flickered with disdain. Are you trying to leech off us? Just take the money and get out already, she snapped, her voice dripping with venom. I stood frozen, stunned by the hostility. You don't actually think you're staying here, do you? Her husband added coldly. You and Virginia aren't even real family. It's better if only blood relatives live together, so please leave as soon as possible. Their words weren't just meant to hurt, they were meant to push me out. They hurled insults, calling me a leech, an outsider. I'd had enough. Without a word, I gathered my things and walked out. My name is Jasmine, and I'm a 35-year-old working housewife. Right now, I live a peaceful life with my husband, Wesley, and my mother-in-law, Virginia. Marriage was never really a priority for me, but when Wesley and I tied the knot, we had an understanding. I would continue working. He's always been supportive, always putting me first. Wesley lost his father when he was in middle school, and Virginia had been the backbone of the family ever since, raising both him and his sister on her own. We don't have kids yet, but I imagine raising them comes with struggles I can't even begin to understand. That's why I was worried about Virginia living alone, so after the wedding, I made a suggestion. Virginia, would you like to live with us? You'd still have plenty of alone time while I'm at work, but meals are always better when shared, don't you think? Virginia's face lit up. Really? To be honest, living alone has been getting a little lonely, she admitted. That was all it took. We decided to share a home. Wesley had been worried about his mother being on her own, but he'd kept those feelings bottled up, unsure if suggesting we all live together would be too much. Since neither of our places was ideal for 3 people, we went all in, bought a brand new house, and started fresh. We set Virginia up on the first floor, where it was easier on her weak legs, while Wesley and I took the second floor. Living with her turned out to be easier than I'd imagined. She taught me how to cook and even helped with cleaning, something I've never been great at. I was grateful for everything. Virginia, I appreciate everything you do for us, but don't overwork yourself, I told her one evening. We're in this for the long haul, and I don't want you wearing yourself out. She shook her head with a warm smile. Nonsense, I'm living with you, so let me at least do this. If I don't, I'll just feel like a freeloader. Our home was filled with these small but lively conversations. At first, Wesley had been nervous about potential tension between us, but when he saw how well we got along, he was able to focus on work without worry. Jasmine, thank you for taking such good care of my mom, he told me one night. I'll work even harder to make you happy. But I already had all the happiness I needed. I have you and Virginia, what more could I ask for? I smiled. If I got any greedier, I might jinx it. I wished for our peaceful life to last forever. But peace is a fragile thing. About 6 months after we started living together, I noticed something was off with Virginia. Is something bothering you? I asked gently one evening. If there's anything on your mind, I'm here to listen. She hesitated at first, but then sighed, her expression troubled. Well, Bonnie and Malachi have started coming by almost every day, she admitted. They say they're short on cash, so they've been taking money from my purse and the fridge. They treat this place like a grocery store. What? My stomach twisted. Wesley's sister and her husband had been making themselves at home while we were at work. I'd only met Bonnie twice, once before the wedding and then again at the ceremony. I still remembered how she had sized me up, her gaze full of judgment. So this is Wesley's type? She had muttered back then. I never would have guessed. She's so plain. She just fades into the background. If I were a guy, I wouldn't even give her a second glance. She had spoken so carelessly, as if I weren't even there. Wesley had once warned me that his sister could be difficult, but I hadn't expected this level of cruelty. Even at 40, she had never held a steady job. She did as she pleased, flitting from one thing to another without concern. No wonder Virginia was upset. She's been like this for years, Virginia sighed. Even when I scolded her, she never listened. If you think it's because of how I raised her, I won't deny it. I take full responsibility. No, this isn't your fault, I reassured her. She's an adult, she should know better. Wesley, who had overheard our conversation, let out a deep sigh. So my sister is still causing trouble? He muttered. She's a real piece of work. I thought marriage might change her, but it looks like it's only made things worse. From what I gathered, Malachi wasn't much better. He lived a carefree life, working odd jobs when he felt like it, always complaining about money. Wesley had tried to set them straight before, but they never listened. In 3 days. It's payday, Virginia said, her tone unusually firm. They'll come again, I'm sure of it. I really want to put a stop to this. Wesley considered taking the day off to confront them, but with his workload, it wasn't an option. And so, the question remained, how are we going to stop them? So, I'll stay with you, I said, better than leaving you to deal with them alone, right? If they start asking for money, I'll handle it. And with that, we carefully planned our response. Sure enough, 3 days later, payday Friday, they arrived, right in the middle of lunch preparations. Hey, Mom, we're home, Bonnie called out casually. We're starving. Got anything good? Just whip up something quick, okay? Then she spotted me and frowned. Wait, why is Jasmine here? Aren't you supposed to be at work? I took the day off to spend time with Virginia, I said smoothly. But hold on a second, you just said, we're home, like you actually live here. Isn't that a little strange? I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer. Isn't it weird to barge in and announce we're home? And then, on top of that, demand a meal? Do you even realize how ridiculous that sounds? You've been treating our home like your personal pantry, and honestly, it's infuriating, I said firmly. Bonnie scoffed. And who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? You're only here because of my brother. Know your place, she snapped. If you've got time to run your mouth, you might as well start cooking our lunch. Her audacity left me speechless, and Virginia looked utterly drained. Bonnie did as she pleased, raiding the fridge and even walking out with a bag full of groceries, as if she owned the place. It was a stark reminder that to her, familiarity was an excuse for entitlement. At the very least, my presence had kept them from demanding money. That was the only silver lining. That evening, when Wesley came home and I told him everything, his face darkened. I've had enough, he said, his jaw clenched. I won't let them keep doing this. I'm putting an end to it. Virginia kept apologizing, looking utterly defeated. I'm so sorry for all the trouble, she murmured. But I shook my head. This isn't your fault. We spent the evening discussing what to do until the weight on our chests felt a little lighter. From that day forward, Wesley put his foot down, and Bonnie and Malachi stopped showing up uninvited. Slowly, Virginia's spirit returned, and our home felt peaceful again. Just when I thought we could finally move on, my phone rang at work. All right, I'm heading there now, I said, my mind going blank. Wesley had collapsed at work, clutching his chest. He had been unconscious by the time the ambulance arrived. His co-workers had performed chest compressions, but my hands trembled as I dialed Virginia. Virginia, it's awful, Wesley. Wesley, she cut in, her voice sharp with panic. I'm getting a cab now. I'll meet you at the hospital. We raced to the hospital separately, arriving breathless at the front desk. An orderly led us to his room. But it was too late. He was in cardiac arrest when he arrived, the doctor explained gently. We did everything we could, but I'm so sorry. Wesley had suffered a sudden heart attack. Just like that, he was gone. Virginia and I stood frozen, unable to process the words. The only small comfort was the look on his face, so peaceful, as if he were merely sleeping, as if at any moment, he'd wake up, stretch, and ask, "What's for breakfast today?" Through our shock and grief, we moved forward, making funeral arrangements. Friends, colleagues, and loved ones came to pay their respects. Each story they shared a testament to Wesley's kindness. Everything happened so fast that neither Virginia nor I had time to truly grieve. There was nothing wrong in his last checkup, I sobbed. If I'd paid more attention to his health, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Virginia shook her head. Jasmine, don't blame yourself. You did everything you could. We leaned on each other, our shared sorrow the only thing holding us together. I took a leave from work, needing time to recover, but just when I thought we could finally mourn in peace, another storm arrived. A month after Wesley's passing, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Bonnie and Malachi standing there. Bonnie's lips curled into a sneer. Excuse me, why is this stranger still here? She scoffed, her eyes locking onto me. This is absolutely ridiculous. Are you planning to mooch off us now? Leave your money and get out. Even in grief, even after losing her own brother, she hadn't changed. I clenched my fists. This time, I wasn't going to let her win. Bonnie's demand left me speechless. Even Malachi chimed in. You're not seriously thinking of staying here, are you? You and Virginia are practically strangers. Blood relatives should live together. So, please, pack up and leave as soon as you can. The next thing I knew, a moving truck pulled up. and Bonnie laughed. We're excited to live here, just us, family. They had no shame, no compassion. While I was still grieving my husband, they cared only about kicking me out. They hurled insults, calling me a leech and an outsider, as if I had no right to be there at all. I'd had enough. There was no point in arguing with people like them. As I packed my things, Bonnie stood in the doorway, smirking. What's wrong? Feeling blue? You can't stay here. I know being a widow's tough, but you'll manage. You're younger than me, after all. I ignored her, not giving her the satisfaction of a response. Without a word, I walked out. The first place I went, the real estate agent. I wasted no time putting the house and property up for sale. Bonnie thought she had won, but the truth was, the house had always been in my name. There was no mortgage, just paperwork to finalize before I could cut them off completely. I had anticipated this. I had mapped out different escape routes for Virginia, ensuring she had a way to get away from her daughter. I had even secured a potential new place, just in case. Bonnie and Malachi thought they could live off Virginia's savings. They had another thing coming. Under the pretense of going shopping, Virginia came to my place. Virginia, let's stay in a hotel until our new place is ready, I suggested. It'll be a little cramped, but we'll manage. She hesitated. Do you think we'll be all right? Those kids might come after us again. I smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, I won't let them push us around anymore. For a while, things were quiet. Then, a month later, the phone rang. Bonnie's panicked voice shrieked through the line. What the hell is happening? We've been thrown out. I could practically see her wide-eyed desperation. This is Wesley's house, or wait, it's in Mom's name, isn't it? You can't just do this. Where are we supposed to go? I kept my voice calm. Actually, that house has always been in my name, and since I have no interest in living with you, I sold it. The new owner is waiting for you to vacate. So, please, leave as soon as you can. Bonnie's breath hitched. But, we have nowhere to go. We're unemployed, drowning in debt. How can you just throw us out like this? I almost laughed at the irony. Funny, I mused. That's exactly what you did to me. Remember telling me to stop mooching? I left without a fuss, didn't I? So why don't you two check into a hotel or something? We don't have any money, she wailed. Where are you? You're with Mom, aren't you? Let me talk to her. We won't survive without her. Ah, so they really were that deep in the red, probably already dodging debt collectors. That's not our problem, I said bluntly, and stop pestering Virginia. We know you've nearly drained her savings. You're done using her. You're heartless, Bonnie sobbed. The same woman who had sneered at me just weeks ago was now crumbling under the weight of her own mistakes. Virginia, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. Bonnie, she sighed, if you think you can keep relying on me, you're wrong. Remember Dad's life insurance? You swore you wouldn't waste it, but you gambled it away, and you haven't changed, have you? She exhaled sharply. I'm done. Don't ever contact me again. Mom, don't say that, Bonnie wailed. Don't be so harsh. Virginia ended the call. Then, she turned to me with a sigh. Jasmine, let's block her number. She won't stop otherwise. I nodded. Good idea. Bonnie didn't give up easily. She tried calling Virginia. She tried calling Wesley's old number. She even went to our relatives, begging for help. But nobody wanted to listen. Everyone knew about her gambling debts. They had no sympathy left for her. Homeless and out of options, she and Malachi ended up working day jobs and sleeping in a park until they could scrape together enough for a tiny apartment. Not so high and mighty anymore. And as for Virginia and me, we moved on. A month passed, and though the pain of losing Wesley lingered, I slowly started piecing my life back together. I returned to work, thinner than before, but lighter in spirit. And every evening, when I came home, Virginia greeted me with a warm smile. It was comforting. Maybe our living arrangement was unconventional, but it worked. Because for the first time in a long time, life felt peaceful again.